Yeah,
hey,
that's
Captain
kind of
Garrett,
awful.
since you're here, I mean, I kind of have a rough idea from your streams what you enjoy writing about, but what's your favorite type of character to write about?
Well, honestly, I did my top 10 list. My favorite movie of the year, best movie of the year, Godzilla -1. And I would say Shikishima is kind of my favorite type of character. He's like someone who's, he has a lot of pain in his life. He has a lot of doubt, but he has just this mission. He has just this primal motivating mission. Which
You know what would make that character better?
But by all means.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
You're right.
I liked him. I was listening to Gary. I kind of was. I like that character.
Give her a side shave and purple hair.
I like primal stories. I like emotionally motivated primal characters. And so my favorite, I would say probably my favorite type of story is a Golden Fleece story. And I like teams that are, I like buddies and teams that have really close friendships. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one was brilliant.
One for sure. Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. And that's those are the kind of stories I like. Stories I hate
because he nailed that family dynamic with them so well by the end.
Yes. And I feel like the reason Guardians 3 wasn't very good for me is I think that the core of that film should have been this incredible friendship between Peter and Rocket. And I think if that had been the through line, I would have been all about that movie.
How do you feel about the newer Planet of the Apes trilogy with like Caesar and such? That's a very emotionally motivated character.
It's clever.
I love the trilogy.
It's
I love it
clever,
so
but it
much.
doesn't speak to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
so sad.
It's just not the original Planet of the Apes is better.
I haven't seen the OG.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Gary, sorry.
Speaking of Planet of the Apes, we're going to bring up the Mark Wahlberg one.
hey, don't you be getting down on freaking.
I love me a bad Mark Wahlberg movie. The Happening.
Looking for a name. Hit the like cuts glass.
Guys, you guys got to start getting interested in science. Come on, guys.
What? No.
I have a question. What's the Golden Fleece story?
Oh,
it's a reference to Greek myth, isn't it?
Yes, it's references Jason and the Argonauts, but specifically what I'm speaking of is there's a book called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. He's a screenwriter, the late Blake Snyder, and he basically wrote a book for storytellers on like how to create stories. And I just really love his model of looking at stories. And he has 10 genres. And his 10 movie genres are not like sci-fi fantasy. It's actually a list of types of stories. So a Golden Fleece story is like Indiana Jones. It's like there is a primal treasure, a prize, a goal, and you're on a road trip to get it. So
Lord of the
Star Wars,
Rings,
for example. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is the OG Golden Fleece story, right? But there's other genres like Monster in the House is kind of what most horror movies or like Jaws would be. Dude with a Problem is like Die Hard. Superhero movie can obviously is comic book characters, but that also applies to like Oppenheimer is a superhero movie because he's a superheroes in his model are people that have special talents that make them removed from the rest of humanity, and so therefore it's hard for people. They're misunderstood. Which, unsurprisingly, explains why nerds tend to like superheroes, because superheroes are kind of lonely. They're outsiders. It's easy to relate to that if you're kind of feeling like an outsider. And then you have institutionalized buddy love, which is like any buddy cop movie you've ever seen. Thelma and Louise, that's a buddy love story. So anyhow, those are the 10 genres.
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. Yeah, that's perfect example.
Lethal Weapon.
Absolutely.
Love those movies, man.
What was the name of this book again?
It's called Save the Cat. Save the Cat. It's a great read for anyone that's a storyteller.
Would Training Day count as a buddy movie?
Training Day? Actually, that is an institutionalized story. That's a mentor institutionalized story. So institutionalized stories are stories like The Godfather, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, anything that's about a group. In fact, there was a TV show this year, Gen V. That's a great example of an institutionalized story. So it's about a group, a family, an organization, a crime family, a civilization, that's a military organization. Star Trek Insurrection is actually an institutionalized story because it's about Picard rebelling against Starfleet because they expect him to look the other way while they're committing an atrocity, and he has to disagree with it. So Training Day is basically the institution is Ethan Hawke's character being a cop, and he's kind of in this institution of being a cop, and he has to make a decision whether he's going to join it, which is join the dirty cops, burn down the dirty cops, or sort of die on the altar, sort of be sacrificed.
I'm assuming you did watch Gen V.
I did watch Gen V all the way through. I actually liked it. I
liked it as well. I like the Muppet scene the best. That was
What?
I haven't seen.
I do like that scene. No, it's I say it is the exception that proves the rule that woke storytelling is garbage. Because it is a woke show, but it's so the writing is so talented.
It is, but
actually
it's
great.
I'd say it even kind of makes fun of it a bit in the show.
So what would the all-female Ghostbusters reboot be?
Garbage.
I didn't see it. Yeah, absolute not garbage. I didn't see it, but if I were to take a guess, well, I mean, if it were following the template of Ghostbusters, let me think about this.
It would be a superhero kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. It would be a superhero movie.
We don't
Minus
guys,
the Twinkies.
we
It's a
don't
superhero
talk
movie.
about Ghostbusters. There's three very important things we don't talk about. It's religion, politics, and Ghostbusters. How many times do I have to tell you?
No.
I've never heard
First time I've
this.
heard it.
Rich
What
Down.
about-
That was my childhood. Was Ghostbusters? You can't put that on me.
I understand that. But whenever you speak these three very particular things, everybody loses their minds.
Well, hold on,
Or they
Rito.
did if it was 2016.
Rito, hold on. Evangelion. Can we talk about that?
No,
No,
no.
that was so fast. Actually, Garrett, no, Rita prefers to talk about really very historically accurate films such as Highlander and The
And Hunger
Patriot.
Games.
The Highlander is more authentic in what it's trying to depict than the Patriots trying to depict, I must add. And that's not a good thing to say.
Hold up.
Or
really?
Braveheart, another.
Hunger Games.
Okay, so the thing here's where I will defend the Patriot.
I didn't
Yeah.
mean to derail what Garrett was talking about. I always have to bring my quip up about Ghostbusters.
Colonel Tavington, who is a ridiculous character in historical terms, let's just face it, but he does closely resemble a real-life historical character, which was Colonel Torrington, who was considered a kind of war criminal by the American Revolution. He was famous for executing surrendering rebel troops, and he survived the war. He went back to England, and he even got into a bar brawl with a member of the American Navy years later, and they settled it in the streets of London. But and they bought drinks afterwards.
That
Not
sounds
quite.
like it's true.
It is
See, there
true.
you go.
It's absolutely true. But he's basically the guy that kind of inspired Colonel Tavington, the malevolent Jason Isaacs character. Patriot.
And I always like adding this story about the Patriot because it's the only good thing I think that came out of the movie. When they were making Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they created a character of Admiral Zhao for like the season 1 baddie, the creators are going, we need somebody like Jason Isaacs to play him. Yeah, like how he played Tavington in The Patriot. And then Jason Isaacs auditioned for the role, and the rest is history.
The guy's a legend. He was Mr. Malfoy in Harry Potter too. He just plays a douchebag.
He is a
really well.
hilarious villain.
Oh,
and
I know who you're
horrible.
talking about.
You know,
He also
I
played
just want to
the-
answer. I just want to answer Everly's question. First, it was a Scotsman who played a Spaniard who actually was a Scotsman playing a Spaniard who was actually Egyptian, carrying a Japanese sword.
Yeah, like I said, he had a pre-Japanese sword, and he was playing a Spaniard, and it was a mess. But I do enjoy that movie, considering
It's a
all
beautiful
that.
mess. What are you talking about?
I'm not a Spaniard, but I play one on TV.
Do you speak Espanol?
It was an open hand slap.
Captain Garrett, before I ask you my question, I would adore to find you anywhere else besides Gilded. Where can I find you and subscribe to you?
I'm on Discord, so you can find. I have a Swords and Starships channel. I could drop a link to the channel in the chat if you're interested.
Please do. You are already awesome, even though you're tasting best girl mass effect shit. I'm sad to say. But
Wait, what?
What?
I just
hold
I
on.
could hear it.
hold on. Thank you for the link. Second, what kind of story is Game of Thrones in genre speak
An
here?
incomplete one.
Unfinished.
Okay, well, that's a little complicated because the Save the Cat genre technically is for novels or films. However, I believe you can extrapolate it to a full season arc. And so if you're asking kind of individual episodes of Game of Thrones can be different genres, right? So the first episode of Game of Thrones, right? Well,
I thought he was
I'd have-
talking about the books.
but if you're asking the first book, Game of Thrones, I haven't read it, but I could speak to the show. Like what maybe is season 1 of a Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
I
the
would
show is
say-
close.
I would say generally, probably most of Game of Thrones is an institutionalized story. I would say because it's about groups, it's about noble houses, it's about loyalty to the house or betraying the house or
Distribution of power and the changing of hands.
Exactly. So, like, in a way, every character in Game of Thrones is part of their own institutionalized story. Daenerys Targaryen is trying to reclaim her legacy, but she has to deal with her malevolent brother who wants to treat her like a slave. How does
Not
she
for
overthrow
very
him?
long. Spoilers.
It sounds most of all like it's at its core a geopolitical thriller.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings is classic Golden Fleece. It's a road trip with a team who are out for a primal prize, which is the destruction of the Ring of Power. Game of Thrones is all about the inner machinations. Well, but Jon Snow might be the only character in the series. I'm speaking only to the TV show because I haven't read the books. But Jon Snow, who's not my favorite character, but he probably is the only one that has a kind of Golden Fleece story, which is he's trying to end the threat of the White Walkers. So
She's McQueen.
McQueen. Oh my god, they so assassinated Daenerys at the end of that series, and they assassinated Jon Snow. That's
I will say
Ugh.
that it is an institutional story. It's at season 8 was more like a trash fire inside the institution, and they had to let all the inmates out.
Oh, I got to shit on season 5 for a bit.
Season 5 is where the show it's the show directly followed the trajectory of the show Dexter. Seasons 1 through 4, good, great, amazing. And then, kind of a misstep. Oh, something's wrong. Oh dear Lord.
The only good thing in season 5 was the fucking, what is it called? Beyond the Wall, the town.
No, that's season 6.
Hard home.
That's season 5.
Are you sure?
It is the
All
one
right,
thing
Effer,
that
let me
has
let me
changed
look
from
it
the
up.
books that was actually kind of understandable why they did it, which was
Which was the one where they had Dorne, where they were in Dorne.
Hard Home.
Yeah.
When they go to Hard Home, is the one
Which
good
was-
thing in season 5.
Son of a gun, you're right.
Which season was where they were in Dorne?
Season 5, Jamie wasn't supposed to go to Dorne,
Yeah,
He was
okay,
working
yeah.
with Riverlands.
and then they ruined Dorne bit anyway.
Yeah, that's when the series got the runs. They didn't get any better from there.
Captain Garrett, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
This is me going crazy for a minute, but I have to say it. Can you possibly, maybe, in terms of Save the Cat, mix up genres?
Well, yeah. So here's how I look at it. Right now, I am a very technically minded storyteller. I believe I don't believe in rules. Right? Art doesn't truly have rules. You should always be free to try things, be unconventional. However, there are principles that work, and if you violate those principles, it's rare that you're going to have a successful story, in my view. And so I look at it as guidelines, not like hard and fast rules. So with that being said, is it possible that like, for example, Godzilla -1 technically is a monster. It's a textbook monster in the house story, right? The 3 rules of a monster in the house story is you have a monster that represents evil, and is unleashed by a sin. That's number 2. A sin has been committed, which unleashes the monster. And then there's a house, which is a confined space, which in this case is Tokyo. However, because it's so focused on Shikishima, I consider it a dude with a problem story, which is also one of my favorite of those genres, which is an ordinary person. So it's the opposite of the superhero. The opposite of the superhero is the dude with a problem. This is someone who's an ordinary, average person who is up against an extraordinary threat. And that threat precipitates a life or death battle in which an individual, a family, a group, or a civilization are at stake. In the case of Godzilla, it's all 4. And I just think
No
it's so. I
spoilers.
guess what I'm saying is, I think it's kind of both, but I think, in my view, dude with a problem overrides monster in the house for me because more of the story fits that. What do you think?
That's very interesting because one of the big problems that I've encountered with myself, again, you're first time writer, Asperger's, so take me with a complete grain of salt. One of the big things I was worried about was, okay, I'm writing the first book. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know that I don't want to make any mistakes that's going to take people out of the story, right? And one of those things was, okay, what can I do that doesn't break the immersion of you guys, that doesn't make you go, wow, this is completely unrealistic. This guy was smoking crack or something to write this crap.
Yes,
I'm out.
Elevation.
Thank you. And one of the bigger worries that I had was like, okay, I like these things, but I'm pretty sure no one else is going to like them if I write them this way. So it's been this constant tug and war of like, okay, how can I refine this? How can I shrink it down to a more manageable size? And defining the rules, so to say, before I even break them, has been invaluable for me,
Yeah.
Stormcrow, I do have something I could say on that point. If you're going to break the rules, there's 2 things that need to happen. First,
Yes.
you need to have a really good understanding of the rules and why they exist. Number 2, if you're going to break the rules, you better make sure that whatever you make in the breaking of the rules is really, really well done.
Yeah, it's important to know the rules, especially when you're breaking them.
That's even doubly true, I would say. So what I would suggest, Stormcrow, is definitely read Save the Cat. It's specific. There's a spin-off book called Save the Cat Writes a Novel, so that you might check that out. But honestly, I think if you just get Save the Cat, the rules for the screenplay are just as good for any other story. And what I would say is this book takes you through not just the genres, but like the actual title rule, Save the Cat, is a good example of like a rule you just cannot break, which is in order for people to like your characters and be invested in them, we have to see them do something that makes us like them, right? We have to see. And so in the case of Shikishima in Godzilla -1, he has that wonderful Save the Cat moment when the baby is left to him. And he thinks about abandoning the baby, but he can't do it. So he picks up the baby and takes her with him, who then later becomes, spoilers, becomes his daughter.
Well, he
later.
specifically is looking for the woman who.
Right.
You know,
So the point is, the Save the Cat is he could have just left the baby, right? But he didn't. And that makes us like him. That makes us invested in his character. So this is a great book to kind of teach you all those things. So now I would say if you're doing your first draft, just get it out there. Like, don't worry about all this stuff on your first draft. Write the story you need to write. Go as crazy with it as you want. There's no rules on your first draft. Then when you're starting to rewrite, you can kind of look at your own story and say, okay, what am I getting at here? And, having beta readers and having editor, people you trust look at it and help you, give you feedback. Honest feedback is really helpful. But yes, this book will definitely answer those questions you have about how, because basically, last point on this, a story, people don't want to believe this a lot of times. And typically, in my experience, I feel people who resist this idea tend to not, just my personal opinion, tend to not be very talented. But in my view, a story is a Swiss watch. It has gears, it has sprockets, it has little things that are ticking inside it. And if you put the wrong pieces in the wrong place, it results in, I don't really like this character. I don't understand what the story is about. This book will solve that for you because it tells you this is what it's about. This is the core of your story. And if you want it to really purr like a kitten, you gotta make sure these pieces are all there.
Have a great night, Kiko. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah,
Peace out, hombre.
Which one of us is trying to tunnel under the castle walls?
Oh, okay. One last question, and I'll remain quiet. Can this book also work for like campaign writers? And what if you start off the book with an unlikable protagonist, but you find him interesting? Christian can attest to this. Like the First Law trilogy. I don't know if you read those books.
Oh, I love the First Law trilogy.
I do love that trilogy.
Amazing books. I love.
Isn't that character type called the Glorious Bastard?
Except for the, I will specify, I did not like the ending of the first trilogy. Sorry.
Okay,
Pissed me off.
I'm kind of yeah. We could talk First Law. I'd love to talk First Law. So Stormcrow, to answer your question, what I would say is Save the Cat does not mean the character is a good person. It just means because villains can have a Save the Cat. By the way, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in Netflix Daredevil has tons of Save the Cat moments that make.
I love Kingpin.
And
He's
this
such
is why
a great
you love
character. Great
You
actor.
love
Well,
him
he also
because
had
of
a
these
cool
things.
introduction of bashing a motherfucker's head in with the door.
Well, it's to sell the stakes on what he's capable of, along with what actually pushes his buttons.
Yeah, I think Walter White in Breaking Bad has Save the Cat moments all the time in almost every episode that make you don't necessarily like him when he's doing awful things, but you're invested in him and you think.
Well,
he's
hold up.
interesting.
Specifically on that, I think it's like the first couple of seasons you have really strongly with him, and then as you go on, it's clearly making him out the villain.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say is I guess let's take the First Law trilogy because you have my favorite character in that is Glocta. This inquisitor, torturer. He's one of the best characters I've ever read in a book. He's fantastic.
He is a goat. He is so good.
If you ever want to, if you ever want to see exactly how I feel about humanity, like my dark animal, Glocta is it, man. He is the best. He is such a you know what it is? Why I like him so much is very simple. He doesn't even pretend to be a good person. Unlike Logan and Jasal, he doesn't pretend to be a good person. He's like, yeah, I like to torture. Yeah, I'm an inquisitor. Yeah, look at me. Why do I have to be happy about anything?
He cracks me up because he has this line. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? And dude, I was laughing because he says it all through the novel, but that's so his Save the Cat. So I'm trying to tell you, he's an unlikable character, right? He's literally an Inquisition torturer, and I don't like him in the beginning. I don't like him, right? But why do I kind of get invested in him and root for him? Well, it's because he does interesting things. Like, for example, in one of the early scenes in the book, he's torturing someone he knows is innocent. He knows this person is innocent, but his job is to get a confession, and he's damn good at it. And so he's he's in miserable pain all the time because he's a cripple. And so he goes into the cell, and the guy's like, please, Glocta, we were friends. You know that I didn't do this. And he's like, yes, I know.
I do
but
know.
It's time for you to spill your guts. And if you don't spill your guts, I'm just going to have to torture you. And I don't want to do that. And so,
I also don't like this.
That's his Save the Cat, right? That makes him kind of funny and interesting because you're like, well, he's honest. He knows what he is, and that makes me kind of like him, and that makes me kind of root for, and if not root for him, it makes me invested in what he's going to do, if that makes any sense. So you can have unlikable characters, but you still have to have a Save the Cat moment that makes them interesting.
It's also a good rule of thumb to have your protagonist, even if they're not a good person, to still have your villain be a worse person.
Oh, dude, listen, fair enough. I mean, no spoilers, but the First Law has a Gandalf, but he ain't exactly a nice dude, if you guys know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean.
Yep.
And Captain, there is, why do I do this? But there is my favorite quote of the whole trilogy. Say one thing about Logan Ninefingers. Say that bastard never learns.
Dude. So there's another Glocta meme that in that book that's so hilarious, which is that Glocta knows he's swimming with sharks all the time. He knows that like the Grand Inquisitor, or what, I forget the name of the guy, but he's the Chief Inquisitor, the guy he's the toady for. And he knows that at any time, if he becomes politically inconvenient, the same thing he does all day to other political prisoners will be done to him, which is he'll be murdered, he'll be thrown in the bay, and they'll just write up a story. The media will write up a story in the city saying a body was found floating by the docks. So in his mind, he's on the way to see his boss, and he's thinking he's in trouble. And he's like, body found floating by the docks. He's imagining what the story for his death is about to be.
I just like how much he despises stairs and how often that's written into the story.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, my age-old enemy, stairs.
But then, like, what's so funny is it will shift back and forth in the same conversation. He'll be like, you did an excellent job, Glocta. You're my best agent. And he's like, however, you really dropped the ball on this thing. And he's like, body found floating by the docks. And he's like, but I'm hiring you for this and I'm giving you another chance. He's like, okay, then. So he's constantly like deciding, am I going to live? Am I going to die? Am I going to live? Am I going to die?
Why does that remind me of Blackadder? You're familiar with that show?
Listen,
it's like that.
That is just me every time my boss calls me up from work. You know, I'm feeling, oh, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get praised? Am I going to get insulted? I told you, Glocta is my dark spirit animal because I've been there.
You know,
Minus
so,
the culture.
a little bit else. It sounds like Princess Bride there as well. Six-fingered man.
Yeah.
Remember, this is for posterity. So
Oh, you mean rats of unusual size? No, I don't think they exist.
you know, when he's sitting there torturing the is it Wesley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that feel? And remember,
Shut up, Wesley.
this is for posterity.
I may not be good at answering this question because, you know, I'm also a student I'm trying to learn these kind of techniques, but I guess what I would say is save the cat means the character does something that in the case of a villain, here's what it is.
It humanizes them.
Yes, humanizes them and makes you sympathize with them, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. And so like, I would say read the book, you know, because he breaks it down pretty well. He gives examples from different movies and stuff. But like, I just think that like usually when a character does something kind of unexpected, well, I'll give the floor back to the panel while I think of an example.
Hi.
Yeah. I'm
I will
enjoying this
sorry,
conversation. Oh no, you're good.
What I'll say is that I've read quite a few kind of books on writing and things of that nature. I would put this probably in the top 3 or top 5. It's really solid. Like a lot of writing books are good, but they're not practical and they don't teach you things in the way that is useful for actually writing. This book does. That's one thing I can say about
I agree with you, Kahuna. Okay. I thought of one for you. Who had that question? Oh, Skunk's Workshop had that question. Okay, I thought of an example for you. This is kind of a weird one, but have you seen the Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel? There's a character in the movie who is he's a villain. He's the warden of the Chateau d'If. Okay, played by Michael Wincott. He's fantastic. He's one of the best. He's a little character. He's a little supporting character. Okay. Edmond Dantes is totally innocent. He's about to become a political prisoner. His life has been destroyed. He's standing before the warden of the Chateau d'If, and he says, "You have to believe me, sir. I'm innocent. That I'm not guilty of this crime. I am innocent. You must believe me." Now,
I know you are innocent.
Now, here's exactly, because what I'm expecting to hear is, no, you're not. Everyone here is guilty. What a typical warden would say. But instead, the warden says, I know very well that you're innocent. That's why you're here. This isn't where they send people who are guilty. This is where they send people that are they're ashamed of. Mm-hmm. Now, why is that a save the cat moment for an odious character? Well, it's a save the cat moment because that's an interesting and surprising level of honesty that sets him above the rank and file character you would expect in that situation. Most wardens wouldn't give a shit, or they would just say, yes, you are guilty. This is unusual, that this character is kind of oddly honest. And he's, in a way, he's actually giving Edmund a gift in that sense. Unintentionally or not, he's telling Edmund, yes, you're right. I'm validating you. This is the truth. And that's some comfort, but you're still going to be in prison forever. And so in a way, that kind of is a comfort because it removes that pressure from Edmund that he's got to prove to the warden he's innocent. He doesn't have to prove that anymore. So in a weird way, the warden kind of gives him a gift. And for whatever reason, that makes me like this character, or at least find him interesting. So hopefully that helps.
Because you saw him as human enough to establish a rapport.
Right.
What about, Edward Sallow from New Vegas, Caesar?
I don't think I didn't play enough of that one. So
He's a very morally gray character.
Morally gray in quotations.
Yeah. It's basically humanizing a dictator as much as you can.
What? Oh, Shad's book?
No.
Oh, I totally misunderstood your question, Skunks. I just reread it. You're saying to hell with the cat.
No, he's the leader of Caesar's Legion.
I think that goes back to Guilty's original thing. Okay, so save the cat.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so save the cat means making something unlikable. Likable example, a cat.
Okay, that's
cats are unlikable. I agree. Cats are little demons sent to make us think we're important.
Easy.
I think
like a microphone right
cats are dangerous and evil little creatures. They're just eating our food, and if you died, that cat would be nomming on you in freaking 3 hours.
I think
is in my
Mine bites me all
lap.
the time.
I think the consensus is it depends. The story you write depends on whether you like cats or not.
That's what I learned by watching this stream. Yeah, I agree. Also, let's let the Twitter war continue. Cats suck. Sorry, dog supremacy.
Look, I like cats, but the funny thing is, I'm a little bit turned off by the weird, sudden obsession Hollywood has with cats. Like, they're in everything now, all the time. Like, I saw the
That's
trailer
because
for
they're
that.
trying to appeal to the crazy cat ladies.
Yeah, like the Argyle trailer, which I just think that movie's going to be dumb as hell. But like in the trailer, it's like there's this cat. This cat is a character, and he's in a suitcase. I'm like, what is this? Why is this? Cat lady.
Oh yeah, or in the Marvels. I'm sure you watched that cinematic masterpiece like Maji and I did.
Animation Overload says, Kahuna, you don't like cats? You just haven't had them cooked right.